Hi guys, welcome back to the Christian Nerds Unite podcast. Today, we're going to do a WandaVision wrap-up, and we'll get to that right after this. The beginning of a new year is when many people start thinking about their goals, and I'm no exception. The Goal Process 101 ebook has helped me clarify the best and most achievable goals for me, plus helped me set a plan in place to accomplish them. I mean, this podcast is just one of the results of using the Goal Process 101 ebook. Check it out at christiannerdsunite.com/goals. It helped me. I'm sure it can help you too. Now, back to the show. We're going to try something a little new today, and we're going to add a small news segment. Just some nerdy news, some things that we think are exciting that are coming out really soon. I want to start really quick with Spider-Man 3 this last week got a name. We know it is now called Spider-Man No Way Home. It looks like it's going to be a great movie, just like the other two have been. Tom Holland has done a great job as Spider-Man in both movies, and I don't expect it to be any different this time. Now, they did have some fun. They trolled us with some fake names, including Phone Home, Home Slice, and Home Wrecker. So that was kind of some fun they had there with us. We do have a release date. They are saying it's going to be December 17th, 2021. Now, it looks like that's going to be theaters only. Doesn't look like that's going to be a simultaneous release with Disney Plus. And that looks like the way that they're headed on the Marvel side. It looks like all the major Marvel releases are going to attempt to do theaters only. We'll see if that changes. Now, No Way Home could mean a lot of things. We do know that Doctor Strange is confirmed as the new mentor for Peter, and since Tony is gone, now many are suggesting that this will be a multiverse, Spider-Verse kind of movie. Maybe Peter's going to get lost in the nexus of everything, and maybe that's part of the No Way Home part of the story. Since there is the multiverse of madness coming up with Doctor Strange, it would make sense that this would kind of get mixed up into that whole thing, since Doctor Strange is going to be there. We already know we're going to see some multiverse things, and we are hearing that there are going to be several guests coming to this particular movie. People that have been in the previous Spider-Man movies before the MCU. So, actors like Tobey Maguire and Jamie Foxx are coming back to reprise their characters. So this is going to be a little bit different if all those rumors hold true. Some say it's going to happen. Some say it's not going to happen. So I am hopeful that we're going to see them all, and it will be a crazy time. Now, another movie just released this week is Raya and the Last Dragon. I have not had the opportunity to watch this yet, but it is getting huge reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, the reviewers are giving it a 95%. That is ridiculous. That's amazing. And the audience is giving it an 85%. That is super huge. Now, this is in theaters and Disney Plus Premier Access. Now, if you're not familiar with Premier Access, that's basically paying an extra fee so that you can see this movie right now on Disney Plus. Then number 3 bit of news is the Zack Snyder Justice League is going to release on March 18th, and they have announced that they are not going to do the 4 1-hour episodes like they had originally discussed. It will be released as a full 4-hour movie only. I'm super stoked about this. I so want to see it. Once I've seen it, we will definitely talk about it on the show. Now, let's get to our main topic and some scripture. And I know I talked about WandaVision last week, but I really feel like we need to have a WandaVision wrap up. Last week was very focused on episode 8, and a lot of what we'll talk about today will involve episode 8 and episode 9, but we'll also throw in some things about some of the previous episodes. So this is your spoiler warning. If you've not seen it, but you want to and don't want to have it spoiled, definitely wait a while before you listen to this episode. That being said, let's go ahead. We did talk last week that a large part of WandaVision is about dealing with grief. And one of the scriptures that I focused on was Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And that has been a huge verse for me through a lot of things that I have experienced over the last couple of years. When my wife had her serious illness and we almost lost her, this was a scripture that ran through my head on an hourly basis during that time when we didn't know what was going to happen. And through the loss of loved ones, losing my mother a couple of years before that, this verse has really resonated with me more and more the older I get. Now, on further reflection about WandaVision, I really think the entire show's true focus is on love. Now, when we talk about that, this is a show that focuses on love, even though grief is a big portion of that. And there is a line in the show, and it's kind of the pinnacle of the show, where Vision says, "What is grief if not love persevering?" It's a great line, and to think through what that means, it's really pointing to the idea that we grieve because we love. That our love for someone doesn't end when they pass away. Our love continues, and when we are showing grief, it's because we love so much. And I think a great scripture to share on love, we see this a lot in weddings, is 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. And since the show does, focus on Wanda and Vision's married life, I think this is a great scripture to read. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Now, today is basically going to be my review of the show. And we're going to throw a few Easter eggs in along the way. So first, let me say, I absolutely loved WandaVision. Overall, I thought it was great. Some people say this is a masterpiece. This is, the best thing that Marvel has ever come out with. I don't know if I'm going to go there yet. I do think it has a great storyline. It has a great story arc. It's weaved in and out very well. It plays well with the other parts of the Marvel universe, and it's a great way to spin off other things. So it is very, very well done. It is both lighthearted at times and deeply serious and emotional in other times. And I think it's a great combination of the two. As I talked about last week, it deals a lot with grief, and I think it dealt with it in a brilliant way. And those people who say this is the best thing Marvel has done, My guess is that this is the key to why they feel that way. We don't see Marvel deal with grief very well in the past, and this has been a drastic change, dealing directly with the loss that people have had and the aftermath that happens with it. I had mentioned something about the 5 stages of grief, and I do think that Wanda's story is a good picture of this 5 stages of grief. Now, if you're not familiar with those, let me just go through them really quick. And there are various different people that say different things. I'm going to use the 5 stages of grief that most people recognize. We have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, I think through, not necessarily through WandaVision itself, but I think through Wanda's total story arc, through all of the movies, we do see her at some point at each of these sections. And I don't necessarily think we see them all in order perfectly. So it's not an exact fit. But I do think when they were working on WandaVision that this was a thought in their mind. Now let's start with denial. I don't think we see this really well. Maybe there's some things you could say are denial, and I'll talk about that. But I don't think we see a lot of denial initially, because right after Vision's death, well, first of all, we really don't see any denial in the death of her brother Pietro. We don't really see any denial in the death of Vision, primarily because she is caught up in the snap just as he is dying. So we don't get that opportunity to see that denial. Now, some people could say that her creating her own reality is a form of denial. And that if we look at it that way, I definitely think there's your denial. Then we have anger. We for sure see her anger. We see her angry as soon as she comes back from the snap. We see that in her direct confrontation with Thanos, when she says, "You took everything from me," and he says, "I don't even know who you are." So there's definite anger there. We also saw a lot of anger in Age of Ultron, that moment where she gets retribution for her brother Pietro by basically ripping the mechanical heart out of Ultron's body. Then we see her anger again in WandaVision when she walks into the Sword headquarters, and she's basically just about to blow up at everybody. Now, bargaining. This one's another one where, how do you see that in the WandaVision show or through her story arc? And you might say the bargaining is with director Hayward, where she is seeking his body. She's having a discussion. All she wants is to take his body and bury him. Now, that is not really the bargaining that we talk about when we talk about the process of grief, but in a way we could use that and say this is the bargaining section. Then we have depression, and we definitely see this. We see this in the scene where she and Vision are talking, where they're at Avengers headquarters after Pietro has died, and this is where Vision gets his great line, probably the best line in the whole movie. What is grief if not love persevering? Now, implying that love, once again, does not end in death, but that love carries on with grief. And I do think this depression is really the focus of the series as far as the biggest part of what we see. It's not the theme. Depression isn't the theme of the show. I would still say love is the theme of the entire series, but depression is the part of this that we see the most. This is where we see her creating her own world, and basically a lot of times what we'll see people that are grieving go into depression by simply, shutting the world out, not replying to phone calls, not answering the door, going into their closet and hiding away from the world. And I think this is exactly what Wanda was doing. The hex, the space that she made by recreating what Westview was. It was really her going into the closet and shutting the world out. The last part of grief is acceptance. And we definitely see that in episode 9. We finally see acceptance when we see her let go. And this is a very emotional part of the show. And we see them say goodbye to their children, and then we see her finally saying goodbye to Vision one last time, but with an interesting caveat saying, we've said goodbye before. There's no reason we wouldn't expect to say hello again. And I think that's a great line as well. I don't think it's quite as good as Vision's line, but it definitely tells us that the MCU expects there to be some sort of reunion. We'll have to see when and where that plays out. Honestly, I don't see a good time for it right now. With everything that the MCU has planned, with all the announcements that Feige has made, I'm simply not seeing a good spot for there to be a Wanda and Vision renewal. Now, maybe that's going to be in the Multiverse of Madness, but it doesn't feel right. That one just doesn't sound right to me. Next, after seeing the entire series and then watching it again, you have an entirely new perspective on those early episodes. When everybody watched them at first, nobody got it. A lot of people were like, this is weird. What is this whole Dick Van Dyke bewitched thing going on? What is the purpose of all this? It's funny. It's cute. I like it as a comedy bit, but what purpose does it serve? After you've seen the entire series, it opens a whole different perspective of what was going on during those episodes. There were some creepy spots, but now even the humor and even the lighthearted parts have some creepy tinge to them that they didn't the first time we watched them. We definitely see Wanda basically keeping the world away, creating her own world the way she wants it. And now that we know that the people in the town were actually suffering while we watched them play out this Dick Van Dyke and Bewitched and Family Ties and Malcolm in the Middle episodes, there's a whole different outlook. When we see Vision go to work and find out his coworkers are suffering at night, having her nightmares, and the situation is entirely different than what we initially thought. Now, I love the idea that these early episodes are being created because of her childhood love for sitcoms that she watched with her family. Once again, this is one of those love moments. This is a moment where we think nostalgically on our past, and generally most people do. We look at our past in a loving and nostalgic way. Often we see our past often better than it probably really was, but we have fond memories often of what happened in our childhood. Now, this is a quick little weird, I don't know if this is an Easter egg, but it's just a weird inconsistency I found. An oddity. Now, as best I could tell, the Dick Van Dyke box set that they're watching actually came out in 2005. Now, why is that an oddity? Well, because earlier in the series, we were told that Wanda and her brother were born, presumably, in 1989. That's fine. Now, in that scene, she looks to be 8 to 10 years old. So at the latest, we're talking about this is 1999, which would be 6 years earlier than that box set existed. That's number one. If she's closer to 8, then we're talking about this being 1997, which is a problem for DVDs just in general, because mass market DVD players were crazy expensive at that time. They didn't start really coming down in price until 1999. Now, that's something that gets a little weird in the timeline, and I'm not going to be super nitpicky, but I am that guy, so I thought it was interesting when I did a little research on it. Now, I did think the story arc for Wanda and Vision was fantastic. Wanda goes from grieving wife and sister to acceptance that of how she was handling her loss was inappropriate, and that she needs to figure out a different way to handle her loss and grief. We see Vision going from confused to having a full view of what has happened in his past and how he fits into this world that Wanda has created, and how he doesn't fit into the wider world, and that once Wanda's world dissolves, he's going with it. That is a fascinating idea, that he is fighting for a world that he knows is going to go away. And he knows when it goes away, he goes with it. Now, the next person I want to talk about is the White Vision, the cataract, if you will. And I think this is a fascinating storyline if you look at the West Coast Avengers. I think it's issues. This is from the comics, issues 42 through 45. This is where we see something similar to this. It's a little bit different because we only have the White Vision in that. And, in the end, we do see a situation where Wanda and Vision simply don't connect because Vision doesn't have all of the emotional attachments that he had. Now, this is a little bit different, and this White Vision, we do see, and we'll get to that here in just a few minutes, we do see some changes there. So it'll be interesting to see if this White Vision eventually does have the love for Wanda that the original Vision had. Now, here's another Easter egg. And this Easter egg has been coming and going throughout the series if you watched closely. The marquee on the theater has a fascinating comment that says, Tannhauser Gate puts the fun in dysfunctional. And that is a great, weird little saying, and it wraps up a lot of what's happening in Wanda's world. Now, that is the actual marquee. That's what it says when she arrives in Westview. Now, as things change, as she changes decades, it says different things. At one point, it says Big Red is one movie, and the next movie is Kidnapped. So, Big Red, that's, Vision, and Kidnapped is he's kind of stuck, or he's been kidnapped by Hayward. Lots of possibilities there. In another scene, we see it is The Incredibles and The Parent Trap. And The Incredibles, obviously, it's a family superhero movie. And then we have The Parent Trap, where we've got parents with twin kids. That's a movie that's had a couple of remakes through the years. Now, let's go back to the Tannhauser Gate from the original marquee before it changed. And you'll see it in 2 or 3 different episodes where it gets the original marquee and then you see it change. But the Tannhauser Gate is a fascinating comment because it is a reference to a couple of different things. One, it is very specifically a call out to Blade Runner. Blade Runner, a movie where we have synthetic beings that, have short lives and are basically illegal on Earth. And at the end, Roy Batty has this amazing soliloquy where he uses the term that when he dies, his memories will simply be like tears in the rain. But he has the line that he saw things that you can't imagine, that he saw, these amazing things at the Tannhauser Gate. So that idea that he is a synthetic being and the Vision is a synthetic being, that's a great connection. Now, there is another connection. If you look deeper into Tannhauser Gate, the Tannhauser Gate isn't explicitly a thing, but there is this storyline in some mythos where there's a place that is Tannhauser, and there is a gate, and this gate is basically a way into the underworld. So when I read Tannhauser Gate and I read that information, I really thought we were going to get at least a glimpse of Mephisto at the end of WandaVision. Now, obviously we didn't. So, fail on my part. I missed that one. But I think it's a great Easter egg. Now, we do see a final showdown between the two visions, and it's brilliant. We get the physical and intellectual battle, and I think that's the best part. We get the physical battle. We see two visions fighting the way we want to. They're phasing through each other. They're flying. They're punching. They've got forehead lasers going on. It's just a great Marvel battle, all in all. Then we have the final intellectual battle. And this can only happen because Wanda's Vision finally understands everything that's happened. If he hadn't understood exactly what his position in the world was, he couldn't have the conversation he's about to have with the White Vision. And this is where we hear him talk about the Ship of Theseus. Now, this is a thought experiment, if you will, and it has been discussed for centuries and centuries. The idea here is that Theseus had a great sea voyaging ship, and it is brought into shore and placed in a museum. Over time, the whole ship the boards begin to rot, just as they do. And the curators at the museum slowly replace the boards as they begin to deteriorate. And at some point, they have officially replaced every board in the ship with new wood. Now, the question is that the Ship of Theseus? The continuation of this conversation is the curators then find a cure to be able to stop this rot and get rid of it so that the original boards can then be reassembled into a second Ship of Theseus. And the question is this the Ship of Theseus? And the final question is, which one is the real Ship of Theseus? And most people, and this is kind of the reply that the White Vision gives, is that neither is the true Ship of Theseus, and both are the true Ship of Theseus. It's a complex idea. It's philosophical at best, and it gives some interesting thoughts to discuss. For Vision, in this instance, for the White Vision, this gives him pause as to what his real goal is and why he's doing it. Then we have the moment where our Wanda's Vision is able to unlock the hidden memories in the White Vision. And at this moment, he then understands everything. We talked about it a minute ago that, Wanda's created vision didn't understand his place in the world. He didn't understand what all had happened. Once he knew what had happened in the past, then he understood his place in the world. Now this White Vision only has recent memories and what he has been told to go do, to neutralize Wanda and destroy this other vision. But once the created vision is able to unlock the memories of the White Vision so that he knows everything that went on in his past, he has a different outlook on things. My presumption is he realizes that Hayward does not have the best interests in mind. Now, at this point, White Vision's task this entire time was to destroy the Vision. And his final line is, "I am Vision," and then he leaves. I'm not happy with that part of the resolution. I think it's okay. I'm concerned. What does this mean? Where did he go? My guess was wrong, kind of. I had expected them to combine in some way, and we would have a vision that was able to walk out of the hex. Obviously that didn't happen, at least not in the way that I expected it. They didn't combine, but maybe I kind of got it right by the fact that this created vision unlocked the memories of the White Vision, the physical body of the real Vision. And did he at that point become the real Vision again? I think the MCU is going to say he's not quite the full original Vision. Otherwise, he would have stayed and fought. So that's my guess on that. So I give myself like 50%. I got that one half right. Now, so before we get to Wanda, let's look at some of the other characters. And I know this is a longer episode than usual, but I really wanted to go through this. So we've got Monica Rambeau. She has a nice story arc. She goes from, small girl in Captain Marvel 1 to a full-fledged superhero with superpowers at the end of WandaVision. I had this one pegged from the beginning that somehow Wanda would be the reason that that Monica Rambeau received her powers and became, I'm going to call her Photon, since that was her mother's call sign, and that's what the Easter egg we saw in episode 4 was, I believe it was, that we saw that. So I think I got that prediction pretty correct. Now, my prediction based on the end credit scene is that the person who's asking for her is Nick Fury. We saw him in space previously on a Skrull ship, that he is scheduled to be doing a secret invasion show, which should involve lots of Skrulls replacing lots of heroes. And I think that's where we'll see Monica pop up. Probably we'll see her in Captain Marvel 2, but I think she'll be a bigger player in Secret Invasion. We are expecting both of those to be released in 2022. We don't have a definite date on the show, so we're not sure which will come first. But that's my prediction, that we will probably see her in both, but that Secret Invasion will probably be where we see her primarily. Now, then we have Jimmy Woo and Dr. Darcy Lewis, two of my favorite characters in the whole show. These two are great. They did not get explored nearly enough. We do get to see some of, Jimmy has grown some since the last time we saw him. He has learned his magic sleight of hand tricks, so that's fun. He has gotten some story arc there. Darcy has gotten her doctorate, so we'll see a little growth in her as well, but I don't think either one were explored as much as we would have liked them to. They're fun, they're lighthearted. they were kind of the kings of exposition. If they weren't giving us the exposition directly, then somebody was explaining something to them. So they definitely were just kind of exposition experts on the show. Personally, I think they both need their own show. They need a show together, a little bit smaller scale, an ongoing show, a little bit lower budget, and turn it into a Marvel-style X-Files show and make them agents of S.W.O.R.D. and have Monica Rambeau as their boss, sending them out each episode to explore some new trouble spots. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would definitely watch that. Then we have the kids, Billy and Tommy, Wiccan and Speed, and we do see them get their powers. We see them grow up from babies to toddlers to, 10-year-olds, basically. It's a lot of fun to watch them, but we didn't get much of a story arc for them individually, other than they grew up and they got some powers. We did get to see them use their powers right at the end, which was fun. But they were there more as a motivation for Wanda than to be their own storyline, which is fine. It's fine, but it would have been nice to have their own storyline. It would have been fun to have an episode where they were using their powers to achieve a specific goal while Wanda and Vision were off dealing with some other issues. But we didn't get that, and I think it's fine for the series the way it is. It would have been nice. I think we will probably see them again in the future because of something we'll talk about here in a moment. Now, then we have Agatha, and we found out it was Agatha all along, and that's the song, and that's the end credits scene that we saw and everybody loved, and it is the meme that is going around nowadays. She was actually really great. Catherine Hahn did an amazing job in this part. We finally get to see her really use her magic we get to see it for real. We get to see her in the past during the Salem witch trials, and we get to see her today. Now, I always suspected she was going to play into being the bad guy. Right up front, everybody figured she was going to be Agatha Harkness. Turns out she is. I was hopeful that she was not going to be the villain. Early on, I was hopeful. Once the show started, I was like, yeah, she's going to be the villain. She was, once revealed, it was pretty clear to me that she was going to be the big bad. We weren't going to get another bad guy on top of her. I don't think the show had enough space. There just wasn't enough air for one more bad guy. Although I did expect to see a final shot of a new big bad that would come in another movie or another show that would come down the line. We didn't exactly see that, but I'll talk about something here in a few moments that I think might be close to that idea. So I missed the mark on, we didn't see Mephisto. We didn't see Nightmare. We didn't see any of these characters we thought we would see. And I never thought we would see them fully. I always just thought we would catch them at the very last moment as a reveal, more like a, Thanos turning to the camera kind of situation we saw way back in the early movies. I have one major problem with Agatha, and I think it's been a major problem with a lot of the Marvel villains. We definitely had this problem with Thanos as far as I'm concerned. Many of the Marvel villains they're just bad to be bad. And I don't mean they're not bad characters, and I don't mean they're bad actors. I mean they're evil for evil's sake. I don't feel like they have good motivation for why they're bad. And I've thought that in a lot of these Marvel movies. I like a villain that has a firm motivation. Thanos had a bit of a motivation. I just think it was weak. In the comics, I think he had a better motivation. for the Infinity Gauntlet saga. But for the Infinity War in the MCU, I just felt like his motivation was a little weak. I get it. They tried to put a motivation there. I just don't think it was good. Now, there is a saying that even the villain is a hero in their own story. And that was definitely true for Thanos. In Thanos' story, he was the hero. And in Infinity War, they definitely tried to convince us that he was the hero that did something that everybody else thought was bad. Now, in Agatha's case, I don't feel like we got that. I never felt like I knew what her real motivation was. At times, it seemed all she wanted was power. I don't like that as a motivation. Why does she want more power? What is the purpose of her getting more power? We do see she's able to absorb power. In some Marvel lore, the Darkhold, that's the book that shows up in the show. The Darkhold has a spell for siphoning power from others. So that could explain her, Coven turning on her and her mother saying that she was studying spells above her station. She was learning how to absorb powers from other witches. Now, that makes perfect sense. But why does she want this power? What does she need it for other than just, I want to be more? I don't like that as a motivation for a character. I want something deeper. I did think, at first I thought, maybe she's trying to stop Wanda. She needs the power to stop Wanda to save the world for later. But that's not really it either. That doesn't ever get explored. She makes the comment a couple of times of, you don't know what you've done. You will destroy the world. You give me your power, but there's not a give me your power so I can make sure you don't destroy the world. See, that would be a motivation, but it's not explored properly. So, that could make Agatha the good guy in her own story. I am taking the power from the Scarlet Witch so that I can save the world. So I'm going to do something that looks bad, but it's really for a good reason. And we never get that explored. So it doesn't seem like that's her motivation. Somewhat implied, but definitely not clear. I had predicted that she was going to need power for something bigger, that maybe she was trying to release her son, which in the comics, she has a son that's stuck in limbo, stuck in the Nexus, or, my thought was her son is stuck in limbo. He's stuck in the Nexus, or he's died, and that she believes that Wanda's power would be able to bring him back. And that getting her power would allow her to bring her son back. And I think that could have been a great motivation, but it wasn't there. That was my prediction. It definitely didn't come true. But that's where it is. Now, since she's still alive, we still have a chance to see her return. And I'm excited. I would love to see more of Agatha. Finally, we get to Wanda's story arc, and I think it's a great story arc. We've already talked a lot about this because the show is really her story. It's not about Vision. The story is not about Vision at all. The story is about Wanda. It's not about Monica. It's not even about Sword. It is about Wanda. Her new costume is brilliant. It has that real comic superhero feel. We get the M-shaped crown piece on her head that's very comic-y feeling, but at the same time, it has that MCU look to it. We don't get the skimpy comic book outfit. We get a dramatic, leathery outfit that shows power and strength, and I really love that. This is what MCU has done for these characters. I've always thought the costumes were great in the MCU. I think the thing to end with is the final credit scene. And this is where we see Wanda in a secluded house. She's left Westview. She's doing a Doctor Strange style astral projection thing where she's studying the Darkhold. So let's talk just briefly about the Darkhold some. Now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the Darkhold in it, but it was a little bit different, and it was, used in several episodes. The fact that this is the Darkhold, it looks completely different, and it doesn't seem to be tied into what happened to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There is a big question mark. Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still canon? Or is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a multiverse, a different multiverse? So in the comics, one of the spells that's in the Darkhold is the ability to open up limbo, which is a way to get to the nexus of all universes. In this end credit scene, we hear Wanda's children calling out to her to save them. Now, it's unclear, is this a memory or is this something that's real? My guess is it is something that she is experiencing as real. Whether or not it's tricking her or it is actually her children is yet to be seen. My guess is it's whether they're real or kids or not, I think she's being tricked, and she will be tricked into opening something that she shouldn't. A Pandora's box, if you will. Now, if that's the case, then probably she's going to open the Nexus, and she is going to release something bigger than she ever expected. And that would be a great place for Doctor Strange 2 to kick off. That's my prediction. Then you can write it down, and when it absolutely falls flat on its face, you can write me a note and say, you were wrong, and that's fine. So back to my expectations that we would see a glimpse of a bigger bad at the end of WandaVision. Maybe I wasn't so wrong. Could the Darkhold itself be the next big bad? Rather than the creatures that it unleashes, it actually being the issue. That Wanda read it, that Wanda was able to, to open up the Nexus because she was delving into things that she shouldn't have, this dark magic. Could that be our glimpse into the next big bad? I think that's a bit of a stretch. I'm just trying to make myself feel better that I got a prediction right. But I think it could be a thing. It would be interesting to not have a big bad as a character, but actually the book is the big bad. I think it would be interesting and cool, but I'm probably wrong. So overall, it was a great series. I did absolutely love it. We have a whole new superhero in the form of Monica Rambeau's Photon, and we probably won't hear Photon as a name, unfortunately, because that's just kind of the way MCU rolls. It's only taken us 5 years to finally hear the Scarlet Witch as a name, so, we see that kind of thing happening in the Marvel universe quite a bit. So I doubt we'll see Monica get a name, but, if she's going to have one, it'll be Photon. We have a new Vision, the White Vision. We want to see more. I just don't know where he fits in. Looking at the schedule for phase 4, I don't know where he fits into this universe right now. Maybe he's going to show up in the Multiverse of Madness, but that is definitely not confirmed, and it doesn't seem to fit well in my brain, but I would definitely be okay with it. We have a new Wanda. What I mean by a new Wanda, it's the same Wanda, but we have a Wanda that's got a different outlook on life. She's accepted her loss. We have confirmation that she is, in fact, the Scarlet Witch. That's a thing and not a person. We'll have to wait to see what that all really means. WandaVision is for sure worth watching, and I will definitely be watching it again. If you have not watched it yet and you listened through all of this and I haven't spoiled it for you, go watch it. I promise It is worth it. Well, that's all I have today. Hey, don't forget to check out our website, ChristianNerdsUnite.com. You can find all of our social links, our online store, and links to our podcast. And while you're there, click on the support tab and check out our Patreon, or consider donating directly to help us defer some of the costs. It does cost us some money to set up the hosting for the show and the website and things like that. But before I go, I do want to pray a blessing over you like I do every week. May the Father's hand keep you from stumbling, the footprints of Jesus give you confidence to follow, and the fire of the Spirit keep you warm and safe in your walk with God this day. Blessings. We'll see you next week.